This is a tutorial on how to make this creative passport transition.
I just need some space. I just need some space. Space. I just need some space.
The difficulty level is a 2 out of 5, but if you're familiar with Match Cut, this really is more like a 1 out of 5. The only difficult part of it could be the filming part, especially the first transition where you make a passport appear in your hands, so you might need some practice in that. The techniques used involve Match Cut, and the app that I will be using to demonstrate is InShot, but of course you can do this in any other editing app. Here are some examples of how to apply this to your niche. Remember, if it's any kind of like small item that looks similar in size to a passport or even an object, as long as you can maneuver it well, then it could work perfectly for this particular transition. Now let's get into it. For this particular video, you can do the transitions in whatever order you prefer as long as it connects well to each other, but I will show you each of the clips and motions that I did to compile each step. First is this clip where I use my hand to wipe in and then turn my hand and use that to transition into holding a passport. And then I use the passport to wipe in front of the screen like this. Now I actually did many different versions just to make sure that I got the perfect one. And then later on, as we go through the clips, I'll tell you how to identify the right one. And also just to mention that if you are creating this type of transition where it's absolutely crucial that the filming itself is correct, you really need to edit on the spot and test it and make sure it is done right before you leave the place. You don't want to film it, try it for like 5 times, 10 times, and be like, okay, let's go. You want to put it into your app and edit it right away. So you can see how many times I did it. Only until I felt like I got the right one and I edited it on the spot did I leave. So that continues to this part where I wipe the passport in front of the screen and then have it go through the screen, like cover the screen. And what I meant by go through is that it then comes out like this. And I do a little, like a shake motion. And then quickly with the phone held in the same place, do another little shake with this boarding pass and then wipe in front and downwards, okay? Now we're going to repeat that same motion by swiping downwards in the final destination. And then next is match cut. So I'm going to do this follow me to walk in multiple destinations. And so this is the first spot. And I'll just show you the BTS of what it looks like. You wipe it down like this, and you want to go close enough to the screen so that it sort of blurs out and the motion is a bit blurry. Okay. And then this is also the screenshot that I took of the spot that I want to match cut so that when I'm here, I used this as a reference to film this. So I screenshotted this and I sent this to my husband, and then he used that to match it up as best as he can to this part. And don't worry, it doesn't match perfectly, but don't worry, we're gonna show you how to match cut later. And this is covered in lesson 5 of advanced editing, so you can go and review that to brush up on match cut techniques. So we do this walk, and then we do this walk, match cut again, and then go out into the view. And then lastly, we're going to transition from that view into this view like this, go bye-bye, and then wipe out. And that wipe out will then continue to this wipe in, okay? And then it'll start over. So this particular video is very easy to edit, but the filming itself can be a little tricky to make it exact. So you really do want to practice many times until you get the right clip. Now let's put this into InShot because this is a fairly simple edit and you can do it in any other editing app, but for simple ones, I prefer to use InShot because it's very quick and easy and intuitive. Okay, so let's import all the clips. Alrighty, so we're going to test out a few of these transitions because I want to find the one that matches the best when the passport pops in. So let's try with this one first from here. And we're going to trim it right when your hand goes like this, right? And then go to where you repeat the motion, roughly here, split that and delete the rest, and then just take a quick look to see if that worked out. And if it doesn't, then you want to redo it again. Okay, so obviously that was not so smooth. You can trim it a little bit to see if it would be smoother, but as I was editing this on the spot when I was there, I realized one big mistake, and that was my hands here are like, you can see all the fingers, right? And then I turn the fingers like this. But then when I am holding the passport, you can't see my fingers. You just see my hand sort of holding on to something like this. So it really doesn't work so well in terms of the motion. It's not as smooth. So this one we eliminate. No good. Now let's try the next one. Again, I did the same thing where the fingers are like this. So I'm just going to delete this one as well. Okay, let's try this one. So I tried to keep my fingers together so that the motion would be as similar as possible to when I am holding the passport. So from here, the motion starts. For this one, you really have to trim it to the right spot so that it looks seamless. Let's take a look. Okay, it's almost close, but there was a tiny little jump if you noticed. The background moved a little bit because when I was holding the camera, I moved a tiny bit. We can also experimenting with trimming the hand to a different spot and see if that looks more smooth. That looks a bit better. Yeah, so if you look at this, that's pretty seamless. The background jump is minimal as well. So what I did was just experiment with the part where I trim between the two clips to see what would work better. Okay, so this is a potential clip we can use, and then we'll end right here when we cover the screen. Now let's continue on to the next clip where you wipe in front of the camera. So right when it's covered, let's split that and delete the front part and take a look. That's pretty seamless. Goes through here, and then we want to come out of the passport. So pick the part where it's completely covered, but also make sure to trim it to the right spot right when you're coming out so that there's no dead space in between where you're just seeing a black screen. Let's take a look. Okay, seamless. And now this first little dip here, trim there, because as the motion goes down, as your hand sort of does a little shake on the passport, we're going to change that into this boarding pass. So right here, like this. Okay, so let's take a quick look first. So what I did was I trimmed it so that when the passport goes down, it continues with this coming up. So you want to trim the clips to the part where the motion is the most blurred or where there's the most motion. So the most motion between these two is when I'm shaking the passport. Like that. That looks pretty good already. Now, if you really want, what you could do is you can go and overlay this. So if you tap on switch right here, you can overlay it. And then to find the overlay, just go to PIP, and then you can zoom in on the timeline. This is the same method as the match cut method I talked about in lesson 5 and in various tutorials that you can do inside CapCut. I'm just doing the same thing in InShot. So what you want to do is just go here and just make the opacity lower. That's inside edit, and you see this little button. You can lower the opacity here. And now what I want to do is just match up the background a little better. You have to zoom in order to not have any black frames around you. But that's looking pretty good, but you can also zoom in a little on this one and try and match the two. Maybe zoom in slightly. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Now we go back, we trim this, and we go back and bring the opacity all the way back up, and we bring it back to the main layer by tapping on switch. Okay, now let's take a look again. It's going to be a lot more seamless. Right? Isn't that great? Because the background barely moved at all, even though the original clip I did move a little bit because I'm just holding my phone with my hand. Of course, if you could, it would be great to put it on a tripod so that it doesn't move, but you can also match it even if you're holding the phone with your hand. Okay? So let's continue. Wipe down like this. Can change right here when it's fully covered, so delete the rest. Let's just take a look first. Okay, we can always speed everything up later, but right now we'll just deal with this. Okay, so let's continue from this part where the most of the screen is covered. Okay, that looks pretty seamless. So take a look again. Okay, and then hold hands and match here. So let's trim this, delete it, and let's try to match this. Maybe here, trim this. So when I am matching like a stepping type of match cut, I want to make sure I'm using the same foot. You see, this one is the left foot, this one is the left foot. So I'm very aware and making sure that even the feet are the same. Okay. And I'm going to do one transition per step. So like this. And then it goes out into the view like this. Let's trim that. And let's just keep trimming everything, right? So this one is going from black. So remember that I said you need to lock your focus when you are doing these clips, when you're covering the camera fully. Now this is what I did here. I locked the focus first with this in frame, and then I put my hand back and cover the screen. So let's trim it roughly here. And we're going to add a little effect later. And then this wipe and trim the rest. Okay? And then it'll continue from the beginning. Okay. So now what we want to do is go in and match cut these. Now this is slightly trickier, but not that hard. It wasn't filmed exactly right. So what you want to do is just use that same method. Go to switch, move it up like this. And you're gonna bring it forward a tiny bit and go to edit and the opacity button and reduce the opacity. And now let's just do this matchy. All right. And if you need to see the overlay, just go to PIP, and what that stands for is just picture in picture. Okay. So let's just make sure it's nicely matched up. I think this is pretty good. Now let's take a look. Let's go in and bring the opacity back up and take a quick look. It's not perfect because the angle is a bit different, but at least the size of it is okay. And also I made sure to wear the same jacket and also the earmuffs because those are the things that are the most visible. Okay, let's bring this back down to the main layer by doing switch. And then from here to here, we want to match these two. So let's do the same thing again. edit and reduce the opacity and just try our best to match these two. I think that looks fine. And then bring it back to the main layer. Okay, let's take a quick look from the beginning. So I feel like this part match cut happened a little too fast. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to extend this clip so that I also step the left foot and then trim this part so that these two connect here. Now what we're going to do is to go in and switch the layers, bring it to the top, and bring the opacity down and try and match it again. Now that it's moved a little bit. Okay. Let's bring both of these back on the main track. And now you can see, let's take a look. Okay, I think the pacing wise that does look better. And then here it's just between these two clips from here to here, it's just a little unnatural. As you can see right now, there's no transition at all. This is actually kind of probably, I would say, due to poor planning on my part, because I didn't really think about what I would do here and the next part, but I really wanted to loop the clip, and I wanted to loop the clip with this hand wiping and then starting from the beginning like this. And so because I wanted to do that, I filmed this one last scene here, and in order to connect this part and then suddenly this black frame, I'm going to add a post-editing transition. So if you tap on this little button in between the two clips, you can now look for the right transition. Now you can test out a few. So I think I used this one, and you can try other ones as well. So I use this sort of like zoom in effect, but keep in mind that when you add a transition effect between the two clips, like this, okay, so I zoomed in like this. When you add a transition between the two clips, it will trim the length of the clips in order to add this transition to overlap the two clips together. So what you want to do is just drag the clip so that it's longer, so that there's more space for the transition. Let's take a look. That looks a lot better. We can also make this a bit longer. And just take a look. Great. And then it just starts from the beginning again. Okay, so now I'm going to go and screen record the music I want to use from Instagram Music Library and then import it into here and speed things up so that I can match this reel to the music. So in order to add the music that we just screen recorded, go to Music and then tap Extract Audio from Video and then just input this, and you can trim to the part where the music starts here. And now it's imported. Now let's just, okay. Now right now, it doesn't seem to really match up well. We can take a look at the sequence of everything and then try to speed certain clips up so that it at least matches and hits certain beats.
Just need some space.
Okay, first things first, I want this clip to loop. So I want to start from here and trim this, and I want to move the front part all the way till the end. If you need a refresher on how to loop a video, just go to lesson 7 and also check out some of the other tutorials like the advanced travel compilation tutorial, and that shows you how to loop it. So Here we're going to start in the beginning, and so let's play the music and see how we can match it to the transition. So I want this sound to match with this. So let's speed up this. Both of these clips actually can be sped up. Just maybe we can start by doing it 10% and see how it sounds. Let's see.
Just need some space. I just need some space. Space. I just need some space.
That actually looks pretty perfect. So sometimes when I don't even plan the music out and I look for music later, which I did in this particular case, sometimes you just have to match a few key beats and the rest just falls together, and I guess it's just kind of good luck and it works out really well. So now all you have to do is export it at 1080p.
I just need some space. I just need some space. Space.